You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
Good morning and welcome to Matt Nair on Air. Jane Matt Nair, Greg Bach, Calvin Butenoff coming to you live from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up on the show after the 9:30 news, Dr. Kristen Lyerly, friend and colleague here at Civic Media, is going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about some of the stories that continue to come out about women's health care after the fall of the Dobbs decision, as well as the budget that is now being kicked around in the Senate and the effect that that is going to have, particularly on rural hospitals.
Which is something we've been talking about here on the show for a while because there's been such effect that the statewide budget has had on rural hospitals as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, that'll be interesting to talk to Dr. Lyerly about that.
It should be a good conversation. She's coming up after the 9:30 news. Hour number 2, as we always do, after the 10:30 news, we lighten things up with Audio Sorbet, an opportunity to get away from the news and take a little breath, get reoriented, recombobulated, as it were.
Oh.
Today we're going to talk about what was your story. We got off on, as we were setting up the show before we got on the air this morning, I don't know how we landed on this, but we started talking about soap operas.
Yeah.
They're still there.
They're still there. The decades.
Yep. So what was your story? And you shared a story with me that you'll tell later on.
I will.
Because I think it's important. It's not just women who have their stories.
It's not old. It's not young.
Right.
It's all
ages
of individuals.
All across all demographics. What was your story? We'll take that after 10:30, and then we'll wrap it up as we always do with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today it is the One Toke Over the Line edition. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that. That's coming up again at the very end of the show around 10:51. Wanted to start off with this, though. I'm just heartbroken for this woman. Sophie Carson with the byline in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel and the headline, "After a long fight, MPS teachers aide self-deports to El Salvador with her U.S. citizen daughters." After months of fighting her deportation, Yasina Rurano and her 10-year-old twin daughters have left Milwaukee for El Salvador. She's been a Milwaukee public school teacher's aide. She's been here for 14 years. She did enter illegally.
She came in without authorization.
She came in without authorization in 2011. She has been living with an order for deportation until now. There haven't been a lot of efforts to remove people like her or others like her. She's also kept regular appointments with the U.S. Immigration.
She is, full disclosure, when we were kicking around this story, one of the things that stuck out, at least for me, was the fact that this was a person who entered in unlawfully. And one of the things that the administration said was going to get rid of the, quote, criminals. And there is a case to be made that because she entered in unauthorized, that qualifies her as a criminal. So I thought to myself, well, that she is unfortunately part of the group that she doesn't seem like a drug dealer or a gang member
she has no criminal record here. None.
But when you read into the story further, as you just said, Jane, she entered in without authorization, but she still went to her meetings, still kept her appointments with immigration, and was working to get a visa to stay here that just was going nowhere. So finally, and by the way, it was a trafficking victim's visa, because that's what she claimed was.
She was a victim of sex trafficking.
So two things can exist at the same time, if you will. Yes, we need to deport those who are here illegally, especially if they are violent criminals. But someone like Yesenia, she was doing everything that you're supposed to do. She came, and if you watch the press conference with her, she's so measured. She's so just very in the moment. She's not really crying. She's not begging for help. She's not saying this is unfair. She's saying, I'm going to deport myself. I'm going to go back to El Salvador. I'm taking my daughters. I don't know what they're going to do. They've never been there.
They've never been there. They were born here.
Yeah. They are U.S. citizens.
Yes.
Because, the Constitution.
Yep.
But I think this is one of those interesting stories, beyond interesting, important stories, because it lends to the nuance of this conversation. Because we want to paint these individuals as, criminals, get out. Black and white, that's it. But it's not.
No,
it's not.
There's all kinds of gray. There's all kinds of gray. And again, as you mentioned, she had been keeping her immigration appointments, trying to go through the process correctly, as so many others have.
Yep.
And now we're seeing people are going to court to show up for their appearances. The judges are canceling it.
Yeah.
They walk outside and they get arrested and deported.
Yep. And something that, we're going to try to get Christine Newman Ortiz from Voces de la Frontera here to talk about it. And she and Yesenia, remind me her last name, please, again.
Sorry, I have to find it.
Sorry.
Yesenia Ruano.
She was trying to get the visa passed through, and it just years and years of not happening. Still going to the meetings. That's not her fault. That's the problem of the immigration system in this country,
and not being not being funded,
not being really cared about, and really being small businesses, farmers, immigrants, something politicians love to talk about but do nothing about in the law. And this is something you can lay on the doorstep of both parties.
Absolutely.
The Republicans want this immediate, almost violent, dystopian type removal of them, where we will talk about it in a little bit, about men with masks on just whisking people away in the night, regardless of status, too, in some situations.
Yes.
Versus the Democrats, who are so afraid of their own shadow when it comes to immigration, because they're afraid they're going to because none of them have the guts to say, yeah, we need to get rid of some of these individuals. They're not here legally. They need to do it. I mean, you need to have the big conversation. They're afraid to do it. Republicans want to overcorrect. And so now we have this young woman who she's a teacher's aide. She's helping.
And paying taxes. She's doing it the right way, the way you wanted her to do it. So this is a perfect example of this issue not being so just, black and white. Exactly.
It's a nuanced, deeply, deeply contextual situation.
Yep. Yesenia said she would not disobey orders from ICE to leave. Officers said she had to buy a plane ticket to El Salvador in order to self-deport. They would not wait for her trafficking victim's visa to be processed. So now she and her 10-year-old daughters, who are U.S. citizens and have never been there, they will be staying in the Salvadoran countryside for now. She said she's going to have to find a school for the girls and a job for herself. As you mentioned, Christine Newman Ortiz, executive director of Voces de la Frontera, called Yesenia Ruano resilient and courageous, and said her story symbolizes the failure of our Congress by both parties to prioritize humane immigration reform. And this is something, again, that has been kicked down the road for decades by both sides.
Yeah.
We need more people. We need more judges.
Yeah.
We need more immigration judges to hear these cases. It shouldn't take 10 to 15 years to go through this process.
Meanwhile, these individuals are living lives, but always living their lives with looking over their shoulders.
In fear.
I mean, Kilmar Abrega Garcia, perfect example, a gentleman who had a no deportation order by the courts because no judge found him guilty of being a gang member, by the way, no matter what they say. But yet, whisked away. Always have to look over your shoulder, doing it the quote unquote right way. And yeah, they need to fund this. The immigration courts, the lawyers, the process, they need to rework the process. It shouldn't be easy to become a citizen, but it shouldn't be this hard to not get deported.
No. It's broken.
It's absolutely.
Our immigration system is and has been broken.
Yeah.
Sarah Weintraub is a special ed teacher at a Milwaukee Public School, and she said that, quote, to anybody who thinks that this looks like a choice, or if they want to say, why didn't they follow the path or get in line, I invite you to sit down with one of us. There are no pathways. This is the result of a very broken, very painful immigration system. She said Yasina Ruano is brave to speak up, and she has set an example for the many who have been following her story.
Yeah, it really is heartbreaking. And what really just is for me is watching that press conference with her talking about just, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I have to do. I have no choice. And she even said at a certain point she's going to be a bit of relief now because she's not going to have to worry about
looking over her shoulder,
or whether or not the visa is going to go through. And that's horrendous.
855-752-4842 if you would like to join our conversation. Ron from Milwaukee is on the line. Good morning, Ron. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Everything you said, but I'd like to add a little context. If memory serves, the last attempt to reform our badly broken immigration system involved a bipartisan group of senators and House representatives who spent like 18 months working on a really good reform plan that took care of all of these problems. And all the way along, they were getting nodding yeses from the Congress as a whole and the president. And then they got their work done, submitted it, and then as it was ready to come to a vote, the president, and I believe the president's name was Trump, said, nope, not going to do that. So, yes, both parties are guilty to some extent. They have responsibility, let's put it that way. But one party has most of the responsibility, and that's the Republicans. The Congress, they acted like, well, that's that then, I mean, they didn't even try to pass it and get them to veto it. So.
Well, no, they got their marching orders from Dear Leader, and he wants it killed, and so we're going to kill it. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate you calling in and pointing that out, because you're right. We had a deal. We had a bipartisan deal that was going to happen. And of course, Trump came out and said, "Yeah, I don't like it. Don't vote for it." So they didn't.
Well, and it had measures to strengthen the border. It had measures to fund different operations within the immigration industry here in America. But the main reason, and if you're asking yourself, well, why did he do that? Because he wanted to campaign on it. If it was fixed, he couldn't fearmonger.
Exactly.
He couldn't get in front of crowds and spew megatons of lies about individuals and government officials and elected officials. He wanted to spew hatred about it, but he couldn't do that if, one, there was a solution, and two, it was bipartisan.
Yeah.
So that's not Trump's game. He likes his sweet spot, and that's
well, it's not about fixing the issue. It's about using the issue.
Correct.
Using the issue to get reelected, and he did. That was the hallmark of his whole second campaign. Mass deportations now, without looking at the ramifications further down the road. These people don't game out anything to the end.
No, not at all.
Blows my mind.
Getting rid of this young woman, self-deporting herself does nothing to help this situation. Nothing to fix the problem, the bigger problem.
And now we need another teacher's aide.
Yep.
Stay with us. You are listening to Matt Nair on air. You can always join us at 855-752-4842. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. We will be right back.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
Good morning. Welcome to Matt Nair on air. Jane Matt Nair, Greg Bach. Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. I want to take just a second and thank everybody for taking part in our statewide Text to Win Scotty Summer Contest. It wrapped up last Friday. It was a lot of fun. Love seeing the entries come in and where everyone is listening around the state, and it's always fascinating.
I love seeing the misspelled words.
That's always fun,
too.
But our grand prize winners, it's Trace, who is listening to WMDX in Madison, and Melissa also listening in Hayward on WHSM, picking up the grand prizes of a little getaway, either in Door County or Baraboo with a gas card to get you there. Baraboo. Not the only things you can win. Free Ticket Friday is back this Friday.
I can win?
You cannot win.
Oh,
you work
man.
here, you can't win. But you can win starting on Friday. Free Ticket Fridays. 4 packs of tickets to see the Milwaukee Brewers club level seats, cushy seats,
Comfy seats.
bathroom access. Very important. Very important. So be listening on Friday. You got 5 chances on Fridays during our show. Tom Hartman, Todd Alba, and Maggie Dawn. Also, mornings with Pat Kreitlow, too. He's going to
So
have a
many
word, too.
chances to win.
I know. So Free Ticket Friday is back this coming Friday. Make sure you download the Civic Media app.
It's the only way you can participate.
And it is absolutely free, as Greg likes to say.
Play on words.
Before we went to the break, we were talking about the case of the Milwaukee Public School teacher aide, Yasina Rawana, who has chosen to self-deport along with her 2 daughters, 10 years old, who are U.S. citizens. They were born here. They've never been to El Salvador. That's what we were talking about before we went to the break. Jean from Eau Claire is on the line. Good morning, Jean. Thanks for joining us. What did you want to add to this?
Well, I'll tell you, great job, guys, reporting on this. I mean, just watching these people, they're so vile and inhumane treatment. I mean, I really wonder what other people are thinking. I mean, I get sick to my stomach when I watch those you-know-whats doing this to human beings and our fellow Americans and our visitors or our people waiting to be part of the United States of America. I'm ashamed of the way that they're acting. I think, and I hope people watch how they talk and watch the president live. And I think you would get a rude awakening. And then, they're going to not go after the farmers. Now they're going to go after the farmers. He doesn't know what the devil he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's in charge of the country. And this poor lady and her daughters, if they were trafficked, that's nuts that they have to go back there. That's so cruel. Well, anyway, we know how they treat women in that group of people. They don't even care about women, but it's sick, guys. But I just had to call and give my 2 cents worth. Thanks a lot for reporting on this. We need to be aware and we need to speak out. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot,
Thank you,
Jean.
Jean.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Anytime. You can join us as well at 855-752-4842. I think Jean would be very dismayed because it depends upon what social media you look at. There are people who are celebrating cases like this.
Yeah.
Just in the level of enjoyment and cruelty
Yes.
is pretty astonishing.
It's
For a lot of people who ostensibly claim to be Christians.
I believe that, I'm going to say it. I believe part of the membership of this club, this MAGA club, is that you have to enjoy cruelty. You have to enjoy the suffering of others. It brings you more joy to see others suffer than it does to help them, and you feel better about yourself somehow, or that
For some reason,
America's winning, or whatever you want to say. But it's just despicable because she is doing, again, everything that's been asked of her to stay in this country legally. She kept her
appointments.
She kept her
you guys.
appointments. She paid taxes. She got a job helping kids as a teacher. Like, what more do you want? And I know it's what will be screamed at the radio right now by those who disagree. Well, she came here illegally. You're right. She did.
She did, and she has admitted that.
She has admitted that. And she has been here for 14 years. So
never committed a crime while she was here.
And why did she not just get thrown out within a year or two of being here in the first place? Because she kept her appointments, because she was meeting with people in immigration. She was doing the thing you're supposed to do. And yeah, exactly. It's just, that's why it's so hard to have this conversation, because it's nuanced. It's got layers, but yet to the individuals who are on social media that you referred to, there's no
gray.
It is black and white.
Yep, there's never any gray.
And that applies to people who are thrown out, who are here legally. They must have done something. They wouldn't just take them.
And they have been.
Yeah.
They have been.
Yeah.
And we're seeing more documents come out now from some of the people who they have sent to prisons in other countries that only a third of the people that we have deported actually have criminal records.
Yeah.
Oops.
Kilmar Obrigo Garcia is another example. We just talked about him before, but another example of this botched plan is the fact that It was a clerical error that got him deported.
And the administration admitted that.
They admitted it. And within a week, the press secretary was saying, he'll never come back again. He'll never be back here. He's down there. And the president,
nothing we can do.
President of the United States, nothing I can do.
Nothing
President of El Salvador, nothing I can do. And where is he now? He's back. And he's now fighting federal charges.
Interesting how that works.
Wow.
We have news coming up next, and then when we return, our friend and colleague here at Civic Media, Dr. Kristen Lyerly, will be joining us. Stay with us. You are listening to Matt Nair on Air on the vast, statewide, countrywide. You can pick us up globally if you have the app. Civic Media Radio Network. Don't go away. Good morning and welcome to Matt Nair on Air. Jane Matt Nair, Greg Bach, Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Just a reminder, if you were looking for some new attire, perhaps to get you through the summer.
Some sweet drips, as the kids say, right, Calvin?
They call them sweet drips? Dr. Lyerly saying no, that's not what the kids say.
It's drip. It's not plural. It's drip.
Sweet drip?
Drip.
It's a sweet drip.
Great drip.
You're
It's
turning me into an old man by the moment, Dr. Letty's kids don't know how to talk.
Dr.
if
Kristen.
you want to borrow my pack of children who teach me how to talk, you're welcome to have them.
We need we need a younger interpreter to interpret young person speak. But if you are looking for a new great drip to take you through the summer,
New drip.
Some new drip. Is that the right? Okay, let me write this down.
I blame myself
If you are
for this.
looking for some new drip for the summer, go to civicmedia.us, click on shop at the top, and that will take you to our merchandise store. And there's a rumor that there's going to be Matt Nair on Air merchandise available very soon.
Shop at the top. Get your drip. It's hip.
There we got it right there. Show's over. Wrap it up. We're done. So, yes, there should be MOA, Matt Nair on Air merchandise coming to the Civic Media store soon. We will let you know when that happens so you can pick up maybe a new T-shirt, a new
hat,
a tote bag.
I've heard rumors of a tote.
Yes, there are tote rumors as well. So check it out, civicmedia.us. Delighted to be joined by our friend and colleague and young person interpreter, Dr. Kristen Lyerly is here, host of the Dr. Kristen Lyerly Show on Saturdays and Sundays. What's coming up this weekend?
This weekend, we are talking with State Representative Ryan Spouty and State Senate candidate Sean Grorich about some of the policy that's happening in the LGBTQ community in the legislature. Did you know that our LGBTQ plus caucus has doubled in size? It's true. And did you know that 4 out of 5 of our state representatives in Northeast Wisconsin just happen to be members of the community? True story.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow. As much as some would like to disappear this segment of our population, they're not going anywhere.
Oh, especially not in Northeast Wisconsin.
No.
And the legislation that they have introduced is wonderful. It is supportive. It is stuff that you would think we wouldn't have to talk about, like protecting people legally. Wisconsin was we were the first state to provide legal protections to people from the community. Isn't that incredible? Like, we were so innovative back in I think it was the 70s.
Yeah.
But now here we are having to pass laws just to make sure that people feel safe walking down the street.
Yeah, it's amazing how for decades we were like, yes, you are welcome, you are safe, you are loved. And all of a sudden now there's like, I don't know about these people who've been living here for decades and haven't really not hurt, injured our children, caused crime or done anything. Now, I don't trust them anymore.
Well, didn't Scott Walker get rid of the state motto forward? Because we couldn't look forward anymore?
Really?
I think I'm misremembering
Maybe it
this.
just felt
It
that
just felt
way
like
during
it,
the Walker
yes.
administration.
Let's not go forward. Let's just, I don't know, Wisconsin, let's tread water.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But the
Yeah.
water has PFAS, so be careful.
Which just is worth another reminder. There is money set aside to address the PFAS problem in Wisconsin, which the Joint Finance Committee will not release because they want the polluters not to have to take any responsibility for the pollution that they create.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Mm-hmm.
that's why they won't pass out this money.
Yeah, it's true. So it's been sitting there for what, almost 3 years. It was the last budget.
It was the
that
last
passed.
budget, yeah.
And passing the bill to pass the funds to get the funds in and out there and fixing the water was passed bipartisan. This was a bipartisan measure passed through the Assembly and the state Senate, and then the Joint Finance Committee came in and said, "Hey, he's not going anywhere."
Yeah,
they love to not do things. They're really good at it.
Yeah, it's just stuck in the legislature like so many other things, like postpartum Medicaid extension. Just stuck, just sitting there while people are literally dying. People in Peshtigo are still drinking water out of bottles because they can't get their...
Yeah, they've been doing for years.
Yes, and the money is there. Everybody agrees it needs to be fixed, but they've dug their heels in so hard. They have totally forgotten that they represent the people who elected them.
Well, and I would just say to those poor folks who have been stuck drinking bottled water for all of these years, myvote.wi.gov, put in your address. Every lawmaker who represents you, their contact information will come up. You should call them.
Yeah,
You
even
should
if you've
call
never
them.
done it before, especially if you've never done it before.
Definitely.
And I know that it feels uncomfortable, and you may feel like I don't want to get political, but the truth is politics is ruining our lives. Our elected officials' inability to talk to each other and compromise is making it really hard for you to live, and it's getting harder every day. So if ever there was a time to step up, you don't have to be political. You don't have to start with, I always vote for Republicans, or I didn't vote for you. How about, my water is poisoned and I need help?
And why aren't you doing anything to fix this?
Yeah.
That's your job. Myvote.wi.gov. Keep it by your phone. Myvote.wi.gov. All you got to do, put in your address. All the contact information is there. We highly, highly encourage you to take advantage of that. Dr. Kristen Lyerly is our guest. A number of things we wanted to talk about. This, too, Dr. Lyerly has been big in discussion as we're talking about the budget that they're trying to ram through the Senate now and the impact on rural hospitals. So when we talk about all these Medicaid cuts that they want to do, this is going to have a major impact, especially in rural areas.
Yeah. In Wisconsin, we know that there are 2 hospitals. So a list was produced out of the University of North Carolina looking at the financial viability of rural hospitals all over the country. In Wisconsin, there are 2 hospitals that will likely close if the big, beautiful bill passes. And those hospitals are in Osseo and Manitowoc. So think about a community. Manitowoc at least has another hospital nearby.
Right.
In Osseo, there's nothing around. That hospital, if they close, and I'm talking about all services, if they close, where do those people go? The hospital where I'm working right now in northern Minnesota, in Hibbing, is one of 2 hospitals in Minnesota that would likely close if this bill passes. And there is a lot of conversation happening in this community right now. People who typically don't pay attention, people who rely on care because this is an aging population. People need more contact with healthcare, not less. And we really struggle to hire people here, which is why I work here. We are struggling. If this big, beautiful bill passes, this hospital will close.
And I mean, Hibbing relatively isolated? I'm trying to fix where it is geographically, like from the Twin Cities. How far away is Hibbing from the Twin Cities?
3 hours north.
Oh, man.
It's part of the Iron Range. The next nearest hospital is 30 minutes away, but 30 minutes in northern Minnesota in the winter is scary. And, the roads aren't great. We already have people who travel down from International Falls because there's no hospital up there that delivers babies. They drive an hour and a half to come. International Falls is right on the Canadian border.
Right.
They drive an hour and a half because we're the closest hospital. We've had people deliver in their car on the way here because they couldn't make it. It's not working.
Yeah. And honestly, like you make the point of 30 minutes in winter roads in northern Minnesota is tough. I would just say 30 minutes on good roads is tough, because depending on where you are with your situation, you could be moments away from dying.
What if you're having a heart attack?
Yeah.
Just hang on for another 45 minutes, Bill. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's another problem is EMS services are almost entirely run by volunteers up here. It's hard to get volunteers because, again, we've got an aging population. There aren't enough young people to support the people who need services. So when I need to transfer someone to Duluth, which is a little over an hour away, it's hard for us to find an ambulance to take that person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the nurses spend hours calling different ambulance services to try to find somebody to send them in that direction. Our health infrastructure is already in terrible shape. If you cut dollars from Medicaid, it's only going to get worse.
You know, we mentioned this earlier in the program, and I'm going to reiterate it for this point as well. And regarding the bill for billionaires, it's like they're not doing any sort of long-term planning or looking at the road, looking at down the road saying, what is the next move? What's the next move after that? And so on and so forth. It's just cut to get our little bank heist. Because that's all this is. This is a vault heist. This is Die Hard. This is
it's a transference of wealth.
Exactly. It is look over here at all this stuff happening while we just absolutely gut your Social Security net and take your money and put it in our pocket.
And those are people who are going to get health care. The decision makers are people who will always have health care.
Yeah.
They'll always be able to get the things that they need.
Yep.
But in the meantime, we are struggling to get by. I was on a call with Senator Elizabeth Warren the other day, who was telling us that only 1 in 4 people understand what this big, beautiful bill is. And I was shocked to hear that, because we're talking about it all the time, but it's only 1 in 4. So friends, if you're listening, talk about the implications of this bill, whether it's the gutting healthcare, gutting SNAP, maybe it's raising the deficit. Ron Johnson has a point there. The deficit will increase because of these giant tax cuts that we are giving to large, huge corporations. So we've got to have conversations about what is in this bill and how it will impact not only us personally, but our communities as a whole.
Well, you mentioned Ron Johnson, and I just have to throw this in there. Yeah, Ron's a holdout on the budget bill until he gets something that he wants, and then he will capitulate. I'm sorry, but that's what he did last time.
Yeah.
He was all against the budget bill until he got his pass-through approved for his big donors, because that's what he lives for, is taking care of those folks, not the rest of us so much.
No.
But I firmly expect Rojo to completely capitulate once he gets something that he wants.
Yeah. Cassandra on the live stream says 45 minutes can make the difference between permanent heart or brain damage. This will, capital WILL, put additional stress on the healthcare system as well.
Oh, we know outcome studies have shown us that people who live further away from hospitals have worse outcomes. There's more death, there's more morbidity, people who don't die but suffer long-term permanent damage. They have to live with that. Then they need even more health care.
Yep.
So let's just make sure people can get health care that they need, please.
Well, and we keep talking about Wisconsin is failing to attract new young families and losing population. We are not gaining population like some of the other states. I'm 65 years old. When I look to where I'm going to live, I want a hospital nearby.
Yeah.
I am not going to move to somewhere, and I love northern Wisconsin, but I'm not going to move to somewhere in northern Wisconsin where my only hospital is an hour and a half away. That seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
And you're going to need more appointments, too. Don't forget
Right.
that. It's not just that one Sentinel thing, but it's all the touches with the healthcare system.
Yep, absolutely. We're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Kristen Lyerly on the other side. Stay close. You are listening to Matt Nair on Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Civic Media. Find the latest news, information, and archives of all your favorite shows on the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us.
Good morning and welcome back to Matt Nair on Air. Jane Matt Nair, Greg Box, Sweet Cal B coming to you live from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can join us. Call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Our friend and colleague and host of the Dr. Kristen Lyerly Show, Saturdays and Sundays here on Civic Media. Dr. Kristen Lyerly is here. Right before we went to the break, Dr. Lyerly, we were talking about the budget bill now getting hammered out in the Senate and what this would mean for hospitals, especially in rural parts of the country and in rural parts of Wisconsin. And essentially more hospitals will close.
They will. Hey, I don't know if people really realize what happens when people don't have health care. We heard George W. Bush say during his term that everybody can have access to health care. They just go to the emergency department, right? Right. He said this. So that is true. When you show up at the emergency department, we are obligated to give you care. That is the human thing to do, and it is the right thing to do. But if you can't afford it, guess who eats that care? The hospital eats all of those expenses. Whether you are somebody who's been living in this country your entire life, an undocumented immigrant, somebody who is a naturalized citizen, it doesn't matter. Nothing about that matters. All that matters is you cost that hospital money and you can't afford to pay for it. So guess who pays for it? The hospital, and they write it off, and it becomes all of our problem.
Right.
We end up paying for
We
it
pay for it,
eventually.
yes.
So the fewer people who have insurance, which includes Medicaid, the more we actually end up paying on the backside. And as it continues to draw, as fewer people are insured in rural areas, there's more of an impact on those rural hospitals. They have more expenses. They have fewer resources. They are more likely to close. That's why we're seeing hospital associations now stepping up and saying, this isn't going to work for us. We need help. We need help.
855-752-4842 if you would like to join us. Cassandra from New London is on the line. Good morning, Cassandra. What did you want to say about this?
Good morning. It's interesting you guys were talking about like drawing young people in and like that we're losing that population in Wisconsin. It was funny, I had an experience, this was a few months ago, of course, on Facebook. And there was actually somebody from the Waupaca County Republican Party that made a comment that said basically like, get out of here with your progressive views, take them to Madison. And it's like, so you're telling people who are more progressive, which tends to be younger people, to leave your county.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. Especially like Waupaca County and like the city of Waupaca has the foundry, and they're having a tough enough time getting people to work there. And they're actually bringing in, I believe, a lot of their immigrant workforce is Venezuelan, which all of those visas just got canceled.
Yeah.
So they're losing all of those employees. And then I think it's hilarious that Mr. Tony Weed is introducing some of this legislation to help rural hospitals when he's supporting this big, beautiful bill, specifically calling out the loss of the birthing center at the Waupaca.
Thank you for
appreciate that, Cassandra.
Bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, thank you, Cassandra.
You're right. Waupaca just lost their birthing center. So that's another strike against young people wanting to live in that community. And then the bill that she referenced is a bill that, it's a great bill, actually, that would make sure that hospitals that don't have birthing centers, more than half of all rural hospitals do not provide obstetrical care. More than half of all rural hospitals in this country do not provide obstetrical care. So that bill would make sure that the people who work in those hospitals have the things that they need to take care of people who just show up on their doorstep. Because if you are in labor or if you're having a pregnancy-related problem and you show up at a hospital that does not provide obstetrical care, you need somebody who can help you, even though there's nobody in the hospital right now who can. So it actually is a good bill, but it doesn't even begin to solve the problem. And he is making the problem overall worse by supporting this big, beautiful bill.
Well, and again, I go back to this whole mantra from the right. We love babies. We want more babies. Why aren't women having more babies? What's wrong with you women? No, that's not the problem. The problem is we have no birthing centers at half of our hospitals. That seems to be a problem.
That's a huge part of the problem. There are a lot of reasons why people are choosing not to have babies. And we do need more babies. We need more younger people. Economically, we've got this teetering population of people who are aging, and we do not have the young people to support them. So that is a legitimate issue. But forcing people to have babies or coercing them or giving them $5,000 or a medal, that's not the answer. building a society that supports families and supports women and cherishes children. That is one piece of the puzzle.
That might actually help. Check out Dr. Kristen Lyerly, the Dr. Kristen Lyerly Show, Saturdays and Sundays across the network. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll have you back on real soon.
Thanks, friends. I love hanging out with you.
Love having you here. News is coming up next. Stay close. You are listening to Matt Nair on Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.